Warning: the following video contains adult elements including drugs, self-harm, heartbreak, and a lot of money. Viewer discretion is advised. If you or someone you know needs help or to speak with someone, please call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Attempt 1 of trying not to cry. Bonjour everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Adam, and today's video is going to be very sad. Today, I will be sharing with you the sad truth. Devastating it is, filled with tears, but also freedom and inspiration. So without any further ado, let's dive into it. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Adam, and if you love luxury fashion, then you're definitely gonna love my channel. So make sure you like and subscribe. Check out my Instagram below for all of the latest updates. And today, let's get right into it. So in today's video, it might be a little hard to discuss, and honestly, I have no idea where to start. However, I know that there are a million misconceptions about me, and I would like to clear some of them up and really let you guys get to know me. So in today's video, I've always wanted to do this video because it is really important to who I am, and yes, what we've been through as people, it doesn't really define who you are, but it is a big part of it. So in today's video, I am going to be telling you the sad truth, which is very, very sad, but there's also an independence and a freedom that comes with it. Now, I'm not too sure where to start with this, so I guess let's start from the beginning. Start off with, my name is Adam, and I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I was born into a middle-class family, and they were very loving and very supportive. I honestly did hit the lottery when it did come to my parents because they are so kind and so generous. They did everything they could to give me the best childhood and to spoil us. I do have a brother, and one thing that I never even knew is my mom actually worked 3 jobs to give us the Christmases that we got, and we were so spoiled. But we were also very humble, and we were raised to be kind. So I had amazing, amazing parents, and I was very lucky because a lot of people don't support their children, especially when they do come out. Fortunately for me, that was never an issue because ever since I was born, my father actually was always buying me Barbies, wigs, everything I wanted, and it was just so adorable. I used to walk around the house in my wigs and my blankets pretending to be dresses, and it was just so adorable, and they were all so supportive of it. When I was a kid, I always loved fashion. I wanted to be a fashion designer. That was the first thing I ever wanted to be, but I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I had it in me. So I always gave up on that, and I decided to dive into different careers. One thing I was taught was living in this world, the only thing you have to be is kind. Then everything else will follow. However, when I turned 11, everything changed because that's when I started to develop depression, but it wasn't just any depression. It was suicidal depression, which there is honestly a huge difference. When someone battles with depression, a lot of the times they lack energy, they can't get out of bed, but they're still okay being on this earth. Suicidal depression, for some reason, you could have the happiest life, but for some reason, you just want to check out. You want to give it up, and you just want to be in the black void. And what I mean by the black void is I have to explain this later on because it does go in a lot of depth, but pretty much you want to commit suicide. So my early teenage years were very, very difficult, especially because when it came to me, I was a straight A kid in school. I always got A's, I was on the honor roll, and I loved school. I loved learning, and the knowledge that I would get by being there was honestly everything to me, and I loved it. However, when it comes to having friends, my friends never lasted. So people would always hang out with me. I honestly hung out with everybody in my school, every clique you could say, and eventually everybody would leave me. So every friend that I've ever had has either told me that I'm annoying, I'm weird, they were friends with me for a week, 2 weeks, a month, and then they would disappear with no trace. And if I asked them, like, why did you stop talking to me? They would always say that you were annoying and weird. So at that point, that really did affect me, and I think that did play a part in developing some depression because I was wondering, like, why everybody left. Yes, I had a loving family and a supportive family, but starting at the age of 11, I always felt like something inside was missing, and I had to find that, otherwise I might not make it on this earth. So fast forward a little later to when I was 14 years old, that's when things kind of started to change. I found my first real best friend, somebody that didn't leave my side and was by my side for years. Now, eventually, I did find out that this friendship was extremely toxic and it did end, and I'm honestly so happy that it did end. Looking back, I honestly kind of wish it would have ended sooner, but it did teach me a lot of life lessons. So at the age of 14, that's when I decided to drop out of school, and now yes, you can't technically drop out at the age of 14, but I did stop completely showing up, and for some reason the school didn't do anything, and somehow, I have no idea how, but I actually passed 11th grade. So I don't know how, but I did have enough credits to pass the 10th grade because I only went for like 1 month during 10th grade. And then 11th grade, somehow I passed that because of my credits. So that was very interesting, but at that time I was already enrolled in online school and I was already about to graduate by the time I was like 18, 17, which would have been like a couple years sooner than I would have if I stayed in school. So that said, I am now 14/15, no longer in school, continuing school online and close to graduating, and at this time I have my first real best friend. However, when it comes to the best friend that I did have, it was very different because she was a lot older than me. So that's when I started smoking cigarettes, I started doing drugs. I honestly did so many crazy and wild things back in my day. And yes, I am happy that I did do all of that while I was in my teenage years, because otherwise I might have been doing that now. And now I am just in 100% business mode. I'm a lot more mature and I'm on the path that I'm supposed to be and should have been all along. So I would definitely not go back to that time, but I do not regret it and I'm happy that I lived those days when I did. Now, to really put my personality in perspective, I will have my About Me video linked right above here where I do talk about when I was 14 and 15, I would constantly sneak out and I would constantly just travel, because at that time I was done with school. I felt like I learned everything that I needed to. I had a cool best friend at the time, and she was really living life. And at that time, I wanted to live life and I wanted to be free. So that's exactly what I did. And for example, I snuck out and I went to Indiana for an entire week. And my mother was so mad because she knew I wanted to go. And she knew that if she said no, I would have snuck out. And she was totally right. As soon as I snuck out, I texted her at like 7 in the morning. Hi, Mom, I love you. I'll be back in a week. I went to Indiana. She was so mad. But she also knew that my mom growing up and my dad growing up, I really am the both of them combined, like as like a person. So they knew what they were in for and they knew like the kind of person I wanted to become. Because ever since I was born, I was a little kid, I was talking about palm trees in California, and I didn't even know what California was at the time because I was like 2 years old. So everything in my history has led up to the point that I am now, and it is really exciting. So now fast forward to the time where I'm like 17 and 18. I am now done traveling. I've been to nearly every state, a bunch of cross-country road trips, and I really got to live the life experience that I wanted to. And that's when I really found out that the best friend that I had for the last couple years was extremely toxic. It turns out they probably did a lot of bad things to me behind my back, and a lot of bad things that happened which they caused. Still to this day, they ignored my question when I questioned them on a couple things. So that gave me the clarity I needed to know, and I was finally able to realize that this girl that was my best friend, she is not a good person, she should not be in my life, and just extremely toxic. So that's the time that my first real best friend finally ended, and that was very hard for me to accept because once again, I went being alone for so long to finally having a real friend and then losing that. So at that time, I was like 18, 19, and I was very sad by it. Now, like I said, my family has always been there for me, but like I said in the beginning of the video, inside there was always a part that was missing that I had to fill. So I tried to fill it with friends, I tried to fill it with boyfriends, and none of them worked. Now, all of the friends, like I said, they have left me, and when it comes to dating, yes, I did date in my teenage years, but looking back, I don't count anybody that I dated as like real relationships and real boyfriends. So to me, I've only had two boyfriends, my 6-year relationship in California, and somebody that I dated after my California area, which I will talk about later. Now, the reason why I consider only dating two people is because the two people that I did date in my 20s, those were an actual real relationship with real feelings. Before then, I always just wanted a boyfriend, just to have a boyfriend, just so I wasn't lonely. So that's why I don't count anybody that I dated during my teenage years. So I'm gonna fast forward to when I was 20, and at this point, I'm ready to take charge of my life. So when it comes to me, I've always loved California, palm trees, luxury. Like I said, I was talking about palm trees in California since the day I was born, before I even knew what any of it was. My mom's like, how are you talking about California when you don't even know what California is? So they always said that I was always meant to be there, which I totally am. So that's when at the age of 20, I decided to take control of my life, and I made a plan. My plan was to get to California and meet somebody that I could end up living with. Now, this could have been a friend, a best friend, or a boyfriend. It honestly didn't matter who. I just wanted a type of connection there to where I could come and have somewhere to stay so I can come visit and eventually find a boyfriend to move in with and really establish a life there. So I made a goal for myself Go to California for 1 week. Do not do any random hookups because I wanted a real best friend or a real friend that I could come visit to where I could eventually meet somebody that I actually really fell in love with and who would move me over there and, it would be a lovely fairy tale. Because ever since I was a kid, I've loved fairy tales and I always thought they could be real. You just had to believe in them. And it honestly turns out that I was right. Because this is the part that is very hard to discuss and the part that I was trying to avoid. But when I was in California for 1 week, I did no hookups and my plan was kind of failing. I hung out with not one person because everybody wanted one thing, and I prayed and I told myself that I would not break my promise because I wanted to show the man upstairs that I was serious about my plan and that I really wanted to live in California. My last day of visiting California for 1 week, I ended up getting a message from somebody who ends up turning out to be my 6-year boyfriend. Now, when he first messaged me, I did turn him down, and I was like, I'm the type you take home to your mom, and that's really, really, what made a difference. He was like, oh, wow, you're not like a hoe like everybody else. Like, you actually want something serious? And that meant a lot to him at the time. So after that, he wanted to hang out, but unfortunately, I couldn't hang out because I had to get to the airport. So I went home that day on the plane, and for the following 2 weeks, we continuously talked to each other. Texting, phone calls, FaceTime. If we were not talking to each other, one of us was honestly asleep. We were glued to each other. So after 2 weeks of knowing each other, he asked me to move in with him, and I said yes. So at this point, I am 20 years old. I have nothing going on in my life really. So I go to my mom and I tell her that I'm moving to California and I'm moving in with somebody that I've known for 2 weeks that I am madly in love with. And yes, she was worried about it, but she was also very supportive. So she gave me $35 and I packed a suitcase and I left for California. Now, yes, at the time, that is honestly all I had. $35 to my name, that is it. Nothing designer, nothing luxury, just dreams and goals that I wanted to do. And to be honest, I did make them happen. Now, the man I fell in love with was a very, very special man, and he did a lot of cool things. So, at an early age, he was making products. He had products in stores like Hot Topic, Macy's. He's done a lot of cool things. So, I was very, inspired by him. And I thought that with the things that I wanted to do, we would make such a great team, which we did make a great team. And I'll get into all of this a little later on. But because of him, I did get to live in some amazing areas. We did stay in Calabasas, California, which was honestly incredible and a dream come true. Imagine being from a small town in Detroit, all of a sudden living in one of the richest cities in the world, Calabasas, and it is just so crazy, especially because growing up, I always watched the Kardashians, and now they were my neighbor, and it was insane. So living in Calabasas, yes, I've seen a lot of people, and I met a lot of people. I am happy to say that I do have some phone numbers in my contacts that I could call right now. I know a few people that have hosted SNL and have been in a lot of comedy shows, even Scream Queens, which is really cool. I won't say his name though, just because I don't want to name drop or anything. But he is very supportive with my YouTube, and that meant a lot to me because going there and becoming friends with somewhat important people, you could say, that was honestly insane. So yes, I do know certain people in the industry. I know comedians, I know actors, and just a lot of really cool names. And the fact that they were able to support me and actually like my ideas really gives me the thought that I can honestly do anything and that my thoughts, they are worth it. And, I am going to have something really good coming. Now, while I was in Calabasas, I did have 3 different jobs. My first job ever, actually, this was my first real job that my boyfriend did help me get. When it comes to this specific boyfriend, he was and still kind of is the one, but he really did make me grow up because before I met him, I was very still such a kid, and I didn't really know how to be an adult. So when I started being with him, I got my very first job, my first credit card, my first debit card, all of that, and that was really, really fun and exciting. But we actually did get a job together, and I had my very first office job. Now, this office was a very, very fun office, and it was a great first job because I did learn a lot, and we actually had a lot of fun.
Seems like you wanted me, calling me all the time. That bunny, check out my cushy behind. It's fine all the time, like sex on the beaches. What else is in the teachers of peaches? Huh, what?
As you see, my managers, they were kind of funny, but eventually I did leave there and I ended up working at a hotel in Calabasas. And the hotel is where I met a lot of people because obviously it was the Calabasas Hotel. It was called the Anza, and a lot of people came through there. So I got to meet a lot of cool people and I loved it. My third job was the tennis court. Working at the tennis court, that was really, really cool. One person that I will mention is Brandy. I did get to meet Brandy, and she was so amazing because she was so kind, and we talked about the show Moesha. Now, if you remember the show Moesha, somebody got pregnant for the last episode, but that was the last episode, and then we never found out who. So I asked her, I was like, who was pregnant? And turns out she had no idea, but the producers kind of wanted it to be Miles. Like, Miles got a girl pregnant, but they didn't really know how to do like a teenage pregnancy on the show. So they were still unsure, and because of that, it could have been Nisi. But that's just such a cool fact to know, and she was just so kind. So she is someone that I don't mind mentioning. But there are bad people too in Calabasas. Like, I can't say who specifically because I don't want to get sued, but they have, let's just for safety say, allegedly tried to drug me. And they have allegedly drugged other people before and have been arrested for it and charged. But I can't say who that was, but it's kind of a funny story. It's not SpongeBob, but it is a voice of a character. So imagine saying like SpongeBob drugged me. I can't say who it is. It's not SpongeBob. It's no one on SpongeBob, but there are bad people just like good people. The last person that I'll name drop is Kylie Jenner, because living in Calabasas, you did see them a lot, and something that was really cool was I actually did sit next to Kylie Jenner. So there we are, me and my boyfriend, we walk into the local coffee shop in the Commons in Calabasas, and there she is, she walks in with Jordan and Harry, and at that time, she was still friends with Jordan. Paparazzi ended up swarming everywhere, she got out of her Rolls Royce, and at that time, I did see her quite a bit, but I never really talked to her. But my plan was to be a friend. I didn't want to freak out and fan out. I just wanted to be a friend because we lived in the same town, and it was often that we would be in close proximities to each other. So I will have a picture up on screen of me on this day. Like I said, I didn't ask for a photo because I didn't want to fan out, but I did talk to her and I was like, I love your purse. Because at that time she was wearing the Chanel boy bag with the iridescent finish, and it was so cute. And at that time, I had my Chanel. So that was so cute, and she's like, cute bag. So the fact that like I got a compliment from her was absolutely everything on my handbag, and we both had Chanel's. That was so cute. But unfortunately, I never ran into her again, and my plan was to continuously run into her, say hi, and eventually hang out. But that definitely is a way of life in Calabasas, and it honestly meant everything to me. Because like I said, coming from Detroit, where I have nothing, to all of a sudden one of the most glamorous and richest cities was honestly life-changing. Honestly, it was so amazing that it was honestly a fairy tale come true. Not only was it the scenery and what I've always wanted, finally having luxury in my life, something I've been wanting since the day I was born, but also having the real love of my life. It was honestly a fairy tale, and just being with him was honestly everything. So when it comes to the love of my life, we did date for 6 years. We did live in the desert. I won't say the desert area specifically because of privacy reasons. So we did live in the high desert, Calabasas, but before we lived in Calabasas, my boyfriend and I, we were so determined to make a life for ourselves. And yes, my boyfriend at the time, he did have money. He could have gotten a place if he wanted to. I mean, he could have even bought me a Birkin if he wanted to, but he didn't. And because of that, we actually lived in a car for a little bit. So like I said, we really, really wanted to make something out of ourselves, and we wanted to be where everything was happening. So that's exactly what we did. Until we ended up going to a place, we did stay in a car. And a lot of people, like I said, they have so many misconceptions about me. Because they think I'm a spoiled brat, which I am, but I'm not a rich spoiled brat. And I'm also not really a brat because I am very nice and humbled. So because of the way I grew up, I didn't have too much, and I was raised to be kind. And then getting everything you wanted after you worked so hard for it, it really, really does make a difference. And like that's the thing. Everybody thinks that like I woke up one day and all of this was like handed to me, but I mean I really did it myself. I'm the one that made a plan to go to California. I'm the one that made it work. I am the lucky one that actually did fall in love, and it was so beautiful. Now, one thing that I do want to say about the love of my life It is very, very sad, of course. If you've seen my California vlogs, he is mentioned in it. I mean, I did even have my latest California vlog come out, and it was very, very sentimental. As you've seen at the end, I did actually stay with this person when I did visit, and it was very, very special. I won't lie. It was very difficult, but to be honest, I don't want to say anything too bad about him, and I honestly don't want to get into his and I's personal business too much because even though I'm ready to kind of close the chapter on that book, I'm still leaving it like a little open because I'm being realistic. And maybe eventually he could come back, but at the same time, I also know what I deserve and I won't accept any less. So, something very, very important to say about the love of my life is yes, we were about the same age. When I first met him, I was 20 and he was 23. And the second that I met him, the second I laid my eyes on him, it was honestly love at first sight. And I know they say that that's not possible, but it honestly was. I still, to this day, think like if something happened, I could probably wake him up with like true love's kiss. And I know that sounds so corny, but having the one will always be the one, regardless of anything that happens. Also, when it comes to him, is being with him was the first time in my life where that hole that I mentioned that was gone, it was actually filled. And the peace and honestly, yeah, just like the peace of knowing that like it didn't feel like something was missing here was honestly everything. And for the first time in my life, he made me feel whole. And something else I want to say that I'm really proud of is ever since I was a kid, I have remembered my past life. So being in this life, it's a little different than other people, I'd say, because I know my purpose in this life. I know that I know that I in fact did hurt the love of my life in my past life, so things probably happen in this life, maybe as karma, I'm not exactly sure, but things definitely did happen on purpose, I'd say, and because of that, before I even went to California, the day I was born, for some reason I always knew that I had to choose money or love.
Well, I've always had the curse of being right and knowing more than everyone else, so I guess me knowing I'm in hell is ironic or something.
So something that I forgot to mention is when I first went to California for the week, I actually did meet somebody, and he was a very, very wealthy record producer. Now, I'm not going to say his name, but he has worked with Snoop Dogg, Miley Cyrus, and some upcoming artists that are honestly really, really good. And I could have actually stayed with this record producer, but the thing is, even though by now I could have had Birkins, a Lambo, probably my own house at this point, I met the love of my life and I had to choose. I was like, ooh, I'm really falling in love with this guy here. Do I go with him or do I see where this potential relationship with this record producer goes? So, because of that, I did choose love, actually. It was something that I didn't really think that I would choose because ever since I was born, I always said, go with money because money will last forever and you'll be happy in the long run. But to be honest, I knew because of my past life and everything that I had to go with love. And because I felt whole for the first time, there was no way that I was going to pass that up. So when it comes to him, I make the hard choice of choosing love over money. And honestly, I do not regret that for 1 second. However, sadly, everything good has to come to an end, and the 6 year relationship, the love of my life, and the first time that I actually felt whole, it actually did come to an end. And the thing is, when everybody you know and everybody you get close to ends up abandoning you and leaves you, it does get very hard to trust people. So when you finally found someone that you completely fall in love with, and he's like your prince, your fairy tale, and you've been together for 6 years, and then you get your heart broken, there's honestly no bigger devastation and no bigger betrayal than losing somebody that you truly love like that, and especially because it wasn't just a friend, it was the love of my life, the one. That really, really like made it so hard and so difficult. And that made it 10 times worse. It wasn't just like a friend saying, like, oh, you're annoying and you're weird, I'm gonna abandon you now. But being abandoned by somebody you honestly never thought it could even be possible, then that really, really does hurt a lot. So after the 6 year relationship, I was definitely in a very, very difficult position when it came to my own feelings. After the relationship, I headed back home to Michigan to spend time with my family because, like I said, I traveled a lot when I was a teenager, and then I moved to California for 6 years, so that's a good like 10 years that I was away from my family, you could say. So being back in Michigan, I honestly really did love it because I got to reconnect with my mom, my dad, my brother, and my cats, which is really cute. Because yes, I do have my cat Booster Penelope, and yes, she is a Versace queen. And now I have my beautiful new cat Isabella Rose, and she is a beautiful sister to Booster, so adorably cute. But being home, it definitely gave me the sense of family again, and it did somewhat heal somewhat of a broken heart. But I will say, after that relationship, that was also the first time that I was happy and my depression actually went away. So after the relationship ended and I came back home, that's when my depression really, really came back. And it came back stronger than ever. Well, honestly, after the relationship, I cannot tell you how many suicide attempts that I have had, how many successful ones that I've had that I have came back from, which will be a story because I do want to talk about the day that I honestly did die and I was pronounced dead for an hour, but then I came back, and coming back was the most painful experience because I could not breathe and my chest, everything contracted, and it was honestly the worst feeling. But that was the day that I actually prayed that the heartbreak would go away because I would cry so much every single day, and for years, I was just so hurt. So eventually, I ended up praying to God and I prayed that it would end. And fortunately for me, it did. I honestly died from heartbreak that time. So, with that said, I've honestly never really healed from it. The pain has always been there. The only thing that I was able to do was find out how I could go on and live every day with the pain instead of having to endure the pain. How can I adjust my everyday life with this pain that I have to feel? It's not going away, it's not going away anytime soon, so I knew that I had to deal with it. And because of that, my depression was extremely bad to where I could hardly do anything productive, and I honestly just wasn't me anymore. Another thing you could tell was in the 6 year relationship, that's actually when I started doing YouTube. So when I was there, I did do YouTube. I have 2 makeup videos out, and it is really good. And my boyfriend at the time, he's the one that actually edited them. And in the videos, you can see how happy I am. I have that spark in me. I have that smile, that spark in my eye, that spark in my personality. And after the relationship, it completely went away. If you watch my very first video, and then you watch my first luxury video, 100% difference. You see somebody happy at the top of the world, and then you see someone who is heartbroken and honestly just trying his best to hang in there. Being with him as well, I did do a lot of cool things. Like I was part of him creating a cosmetic line, which I did help with, and it was really, really cool. I was actually the model as well, so all of the lipsticks on the page and the websites, it is all of my lips, which is really, really cool. And being able to be on the ad for campaigns is really, really cool because everyone's looking at the product and they're like, oh wow, this is so cool. And part of it is because, my lips, so that was so amazing. Another thing to point out is the only time that I was actually sober in my life, before my teenage years, of course, was when I was with the one for 2 years. So I would always smoke weed, I would do this, I would do that, I would drink, but when I was in this relationship in California, I was 100% sober for the first time in my life after so long. And that was so cool, and that honestly did mean a lot to me. However, of course, once the relationship ended, I did go back to smoking weed. Yes, right now I only do smoke weed, nothing else, nothing crazy. But, weed, it has been a good part of my depression because it does heal my depression a little bit, and honestly, it does help a lot. But also, I would like to kind of clear my head because having to say that I've only been sober and clear minded for 2 years out of the last like 20 years is not a good thing to say. So, yes, weed isn't a physical addictive drug, but it is mentally addictive. Like, you always want it, you want withdrawal from it, but it is kind of hard to quit. Something that I would really like to start doing is not to smoke weed, mainly because I can have my clear head again, and I'd like to see what it would be like. So after that relationship, I swore to myself that I would never get hurt again, And I didn't really have any interest in dating because I was like, why would I date somebody if I'm still in love with somebody else? Which leads me to my second boyfriend. Now, this person I do consider to be my second boyfriend, and he should have been like the real love of my life. But of course, once you already have the one, you can't replace that one. And that was our problem in the relationship. Because for the first time in my life, this man was treating me so good, like better than I ever thought I could have been treated by somebody. And it was so cool because he honestly was a prince. Not only was he super tall, he had long hair like a romance novel, the body of Fabio, and he totally looked like Fabio riding on a horse on a romance novel, white button up shirt with like his chest showing, and he honestly was like a fairy tale come true. He was like a legit prince. He would constantly carry me around because of my bad knee. There was one day where he actually woke up at 4 in the morning to go get all of my favorite foods. That way he could cook it for me when I wake up at 6 in the morning to go to work. And I mean, that right there just tells you like how respected and how cared for I was. Like, he honestly was amazing. And this boyfriend in particular, my second boyfriend, he's the one that really, really showed me that I deserve what I deserve respect, and because of him, I honestly won't go back to anything less than what I deserve. So being with my second boyfriend, it was very difficult because yes, I was growing intense feelings, and the feelings did scare me because I didn't want to get hurt, and I honestly didn't have the energy, nor did I want to trust again. I was like, this is just too much, and I'm not sure if I can take this because I'm getting scared. I might actually like you. What if I get hurt again? And I was honest with him about that since day one. I was like, I still have feelings. I'm still going through things. I don't know how this will work in the end, but we can try it and we can see where it goes. And honestly, I do feel bad because he was so ready to like put a ring on it. He really, really did care for me. But like I said, I was just too scared to get hurt. So unfortunately, I did end that relationship, but to be honest, it was the right choice. That man was such a good, kind, and caring man. He did deserve more than me at that time, and that's what he found. And in all honesty, what should have happened and what was meant to be did. So when it comes to my second boyfriend, I have no hard feelings towards him. I have no like affectionate feelings towards him, but I do have the like admiration and the respect of knowing like, thank you for showing me that I'm not too much, that I do deserve what I deserve, and respecting me, and now I know how I should be treated. So because of that, I am so thankful for him. So after both of those relationships, I would probably be around the age of 27 when I first started doing my YouTube of luxury fashion. And YouTube really made a difference for me because my entire life people would tell me that I'm too much, I like too expensive of items, and just everything was just too much with me, and I didn't believe so. I was like, what better thing for me to do than get on YouTube and talk about what I love, which is fashion? And after everything that I was able to accomplish in my life, when I was a kid, remember when I said that I always wanted to be a fashion designer, but I never thought I had it in me? I could totally do it. After accomplishing all of the goals that I've set for myself, I now know that I can do anything that I want to do. So, being able to start YouTube, I was able to grow such a big collection. I have worked my ass off for everything I have here, and I was able to get this all by myself. So I worked so hard and I would not let anybody tell me otherwise. And like I said, I finally did it. So, in a way, you could say that I had to choose between money or love, and I chose love, which ended up backfiring and it failed. So, because of that, I truly feel like the universe gave me what I truly needed, and it gave me the money. So, because of that, I was very happy, and I've done so much. I am now a VIP member at Versace. I've gone to Versace events. I've even brought my mother to Versace events. My mom, I was able to get her a crazy, crazy couture closet, handbags, just so much fun stuff. I now have all of the stuff that I've always wanted. And the funny thing is, living in California, when I was dating my ex of 6 years, I wasn't really allowed to spend my money. If I spent like $3,000 on a handbag, I would have never heard the end of it, and I would have like had my head chopped off for that. So because of that, I have nobody telling me what to spend my money on, what to do with my own money. And after that relationship specifically ended, I did spend a lot. I remember at first I was so heartbroken when the relationship ended that I just spent $4,000 in one day, which yes, I did have, and I'm okay. But at the time, that was so much money to spend. I bought a giant computer, I bought a crap ton of Dior, and I think some Versace bags as well. But my heart was such broken at those times, and it wasn't until my last vlog, actually, my California vlog, and that vlog, I will say, so underrated. If you haven't seen this vlog, definitely check it out because it is so good. But this vlog, when I went, it kind of did give me some of the closure, and it just gave me some of the things on the inside that I've needed for the past couple years. So when it comes to me, I always go back and forth from California. Ever since I've moved out of California after the relationship, I always go back every like 3 or 4 months. So I am in California about 3 times a year, and I do love going there. I actually will be moving back to California very, very soon, and I'm so excited about that. And I will have a whole video, and I will be discussing that as well, all of my moving plans. And yes, that is why I still consider myself living in both Michigan and California. Michigan has my family, but California has my life, my friends, and pretty much, my future. So since I mentioned my LA vlog, when I went, as you've seen at the end of the video, you could probably guess I was able to see the ex of 6 years, and I did stay extra long, and I did stay with him. However, our time spent together isn't something that I want to discuss, and something that I do want to keep private, so I am going to be keeping that private. But that whole experience and that vlog, it definitely did help me with what I needed to on the inside. Now, I am still hurt, of course. I am still heartbroken, of course. He will always be the one. And saying that, yes, it sucks, but for the first time in my life, I am finally at a point to where I can look to the future without any sadness. I can see a future where maybe I do marry somebody else. And if I do fall in love again, it will be a different type of love. I will never recreate the same type of being in love and that true love that I had with my 6-year ex. However, I can develop a new love. I don't know how it will be, and I don't know how the emotions will be. But the fact that I can love somebody else in a different way and still a lot is really cool to know, and that's honestly such big progress for me. Since that vlog, my depression has been getting better. I haven't really been depressed maybe in like 6 months, which is really, really cool to say. And honestly, a really, really big deal, especially for mental health. That is a huge accomplishment. Being where I am now, I now have the confidence to do everything I want. I have the belief that I can do anything I want. And I'm so excited for the future. I have so many plans and so many goals. And for the first time, I don't have that like inner saboteur trying to block me anymore. And for the first time, I feel like I can breathe, which is just insane. Now, that said, yes, I will always have love for the one. I will always want to be with the one, but I am at a point where I can live with myself knowing that I could be with the person I'm in love with, but I can know what I deserve and how I should be treated and not accept any less. I would honestly rather be alone than be with somebody that doesn't treat me how I deserve and isn't giving me what I need. And that honestly means the world to me, knowing that I finally have the empowerment of knowing, yes, I love somebody, but I need to be treated a certain way, and if I'm not treated a certain way, then I'm not being with somebody. So to sum up this video a little bit, a lot of people think I am some spoiled brat who has never had to work in his life. However, that is the farthest thing from the truth. I was born in the middle class. I had nothing, then I set goals for myself, and I ended up with everything. And honestly, it was like magic, and it was so beautiful. It's honestly something that never can be recreated again. However, for me, am I currently looking for love? No. And that is because I found love, I know what love is, and I already had that one love that will last forever. So because of that, I am just focusing on my YouTube, my other businesses, and I am just working my ass off to get to where I want to be, and maybe one day love will find me. But it is really hard knowing that love just might not be there and money will. And it is sad because a lot of people say, does money bring happiness? And in reality, no. Money, it does not bring happiness, but it does make life easier, and it kind of brings happiness, but it won't fulfill you on the inside. You can have all the money in the world, but if you're still heartbroken without the love of your life, sadly, you will always be heartbroken without the love of your life. Everything you see here, don't think for a second I wouldn't trade it just to go back to that time for even a day. Like, that time period in my life was the best time in my life and the most meaningful time as well, and nothing will ever change that. No amount of money will ever change that, but unfortunately, there's only one thing left to do, which is just work on myself and grow my businesses. To be honest, I feel like I should have been married by now, I should have had some kids, and I should be a husband right now. So I do feel like my future family may have been robbed from me a little bit, because I do want kids, but I can only really see myself having kids with this one person, because for me, seeing him grow up in a child, I would love him just as much as my own DNA and my own blood. So it would just be so perfect. But unfortunately, that isn't happening anytime soon, at least, maybe ever. And that, my friends, is the sad truth. You could have it all, but if you don't have the love of your life, you'll always be missing that one thing in here. Reviewing this video, I did realize that there are a couple parts that I did leave out, and some really, really key ingredients to really understand the story a little bit. So in the beginning of the video, I talk about my depression coming in when I was 11 years old, but at that time I didn't know what depression was. Now I know that it's just a chemical imbalance in my brain that I will always have to live with, and it's really just a battle of keeping the balances equal. So when it comes to that, when I was young, like 11 and 14, I always, always, always knew who I was. Like I said, ever since I was born, I kind of remembered my past lives. So this entire life experience has been a little bit different for me. For example, because of knowing that, I was always extremely confident. I always knew exactly who I was and who I wanted to be, and I honestly loved myself. I had no problem with myself. A lot of people, they try to fill the void of being alone because they don't like to be alone. When it comes to me, I honestly love my own company. Like I said, everybody would constantly leave my life all the time, so I was honestly really just left with myself. And at that point, you have no choice but to really enjoy hanging out with yourself. So when it comes to me, I always had confidence, I was always very happy with myself, I knew who I was. So when it comes to me, it wasn't that I was trying to fill the void because I wasn't happy with myself or my own company. And the thing is, people say, how can you love others if you can't love yourself? And since I did love myself, I really, really wanted love. I was like, I know exactly who I am, I know what I want my future to be, so now let me find my soulmate, that one person that will really complete me, and it will like fulfill my life, and I'll feel whole. So when it comes to that, that's why when I met the love of my life when I was 20, it was so crucial to me. Because again, being 14 and being depressed, I really, really wanted to kill myself. And I had so many attempts from the age of like 11 and 14, 15, 16. I honestly cannot tell you how many attempts that I have had. But I always knew that if I did pull the final trigger, that I would miss out on something amazing and incredible. I always knew since the day I was born that God had a specific plan for me and that all of my dreams would come true. I just had to hang in there. So if I killed myself when I was 14, I knew that I would be missing out on something absolutely incredible and honestly like a dream come true, which I was totally right, because when I fell in love, I went to California. I fell in love with my 6-year relationship, the boyfriend, and that time, like I said, it was a fairy tale. The second I met him, I knew that my entire life has led up to this point, and my entire life I was supposed to meet and probably be with this man. And it was so special because I remember being in California and I would cry so much, but this time it was happy tears. And I would be looking at the beautiful scenery around me at sunset, having my wine all the time, and I would start crying because I would think about the 14-year-old me and be like, wow, just hang in there. In less than 10 years from now, you are going to be in the richest city, you're going to be in love, have your Prince Charming, and finally have your fairy tale come true. So even still till this day, sometimes I look back and now that I have all the materialistic items that I've wanted, like handbags and luxury clothing, and I look back all the time and I'm like, thank God I did not pull that trigger because I wouldn't be here right now. And then also my family, being back here and being able to reconnect with my family, I help my mom so much. And if I was not on this planet, there are so many things that would not happen, would not have happened. And it would just be such a bad difference if I was not here, because I am the one that kind of takes care of everything. I am the one that organizes, I'm the one that cleans, I am the one that keeps everything afloat pretty much, and I'm the one that keeps everything happy here too. So when it comes to me, there would be such a big difference if I wasn't here. So nowadays, I have so many reasons to stay, which is why my suicidal depression is a lot less, because I'm honestly in a really great mental place and I am very happy. Now, occasionally I will think sometimes, even if I had all the money in the world and all the life experiences, if I don't have the one that I want, what's the point of living? And when I think like that, that's how I know that my depression is starting to win, and that's the time to worry about. But if I'm not in that state of mind, then I'm honestly really good, and I haven't been in that state of mind for a long time. And that comes back to, does money make you happy? In the end, it makes life easier and it makes life fun. You're definitely happy, but it won't fulfill you on the inside to where whatever internal problem you're dealing with is not going to fix it. You'll have something nice to look at, but it's still not going to fix what's in here. And, so that's definitely the thing when it comes to luxury. I used to buy so much luxury to fill the void. Like I said earlier, I spent $4,000 in one day. And even now, I still spend a lot of money. I bought a lot of handbags. I have so many bags that I currently have that have saved my life. Like when my 6-year relationship ended, I came home and I started buying bags because I wanted to kill myself. So every time I wanted to kill myself, I would go shopping. So I can look at like that La Medusa, that Chanel bag, that Balenciaga hourglass, and I'm like, this bag saved my life during this time period. This saved my life during this period. My bedspread saved my life during this time period. And all of this stuff really means the world to me. So like people, they say like, oh, you're too much money, you like too expensive of items, why do you like this? All of this stuff in my bedroom has saved my life. If I didn't buy all of this when I came back after that 6-year relationship, 100% I would not be here right now. But being able to spend my money and being able to live that certain life, it did keep me happy enough to where I didn't pull the trigger. And, that honestly is everything. So is money worth it? 100% yes, it is. But, you just gotta remember that if it's the love of your life that you want on the inside, then it's not going to replace it. Also, I want to mention, when I met the 6-year relationship, the boyfriend that I fell in love with, when we talked for the first 2 weeks, we never even met. When I packed $30 in a suitcase, I was flying out there to meet him for the first time. Of course, we were on FaceTime, we were on text messages, but it was just such a wild and crazy love story. And it is just so, honestly, it's so iconic to me. I will never forget it, and it will always be one of the highlights of my life. But I also feel like a man shouldn't be your reason for living. But again, that comes from knowing my past lives and knowing in this life, part of my purpose is to find love. Maybe lose it, but hopefully regain it. So, I am just praying that I do regain it one day. The love of my life, like I said, he will always be the one. Would I be with him now if I could? Yes, I honestly would. However, there's just a lot of things that come into it and come into play. There's things on my part, on his part, and altogether, it's just a little complicated, and that's just not my time to really get into what happened and our personal relationship. But just know that he meant so much to me, and he saved my life, because if I never met him, then honestly, who knows what would have happened. I probably wouldn't be here. And again, if I killed myself when I was 14, I knew I was going to miss out on something amazing and great. And honey, I lived it. I went through that something amazing and that's something great. And it's still happening in my life. It's so crazy every day, and cool things happen to me. So, I'm very happy being here. I do not plan on going anywhere anytime soon. And then there's 2 more things I want to talk about before I wrap this up. So I do talk about, all my friends leaving me in the past and stuff. And I will say, currently in my current life, I do have some great people in my life. They know exactly who they are, but because they're currently in my life, I am not discussing them in this video. And I'm not going to say too much because, it's just very important to me. But I do have good people and people that should have always been there in my life today. So when it comes to me and this story, the key point is just to be kind, and if you're going through a hard time, hang in there, because honestly, dreams can come true. But sometimes those dreams will end, and that could be a sad truth. And one of the biggest factors is all of the materialistic things you see around me. The fact that I would trade it all to go back, including to a time period where I had to live in a car, but with the person that I was madly in love with, honestly says it all. I would trade all of this to go back to live in a car with a guy that I love. That honestly says that money can make you happy, can bring a lot of great things, but it isn't the most important thing in the world. Now this is the trunk. When the trunk is fully packed, this is how it looks. We have pillows and we have blankets. Front seat tour. In here we have my jewelry and sanitizer, makeup wipes for the night before I wash my face. In here I always keep my glasses and my Gatorade. Just fix this. Fix the welcome mats. Okay. Here is where I keep my contacts. Here is the cords. This is also where we keep our phones at night, and taser. The back seat we have a beanie box, and over here we have nothing. Behind the seats, this is where my food bag goes, and my makeup bag right here. My food bag is actually right here because I'm gonna get some food for when I go into Barnes and Noble. This is also where I keep my selfie sticks, my wipes, water when I go in there. Some food. I'll take my pumpkin spice muffins and my straightener, which I actually put in the trunk. Here's the cups of water. This is my handbag that I have to get ready for the day. As you see, we have blinds on the windows, so no one really can see in, and we have a shield there and a shield here, which I actually need to fix right now. But yeah, that is pretty much the tour of the car. That's really all there is to show. It is September 24th, and yeah, okay.